Good morning, it's March 29th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, this past week I've talked a lot about the presidential elections this November. And the polls keep showing Trump and Biden very close in any national poll, but Trump leading in the key swing states, and that's where that election is going to be decided. Equally important is the races in the U.S. Senate. The Democrats hold a slim margin in the Senate at 51 to 49. Because they have consistently struggled to get the votes of Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia, and Kyrsten Sinema, the newly turned independent from Arizona, they have to rely on compromise with these two centrists, and that has not worked well. The result is not much is getting done, and with the Republican House, the Biden agenda is basically stalled. As we head into the prime election season, it's time to take a look at the Senate races that are both safe and in play. There are a total of 34 Senate races up this election. Of that total, there are 20 Democrat, 3 independents, and 11 Republican seats in play. The 3 independents, one is the Arizona seat. The other 2 are basically Democrats with Bernie Sanders and Angus King. At one point in time, Democrats hoped to mount challenges to Rick Scott in Florida and Ted Cruz in Texas, but most pundits now favor both to be reelected. But looking at the Democrats, they're not looking as solid at this point in time. Joe Manchin's retirement in West Virginia gives the Republicans an all but locked chance to pick up a seat. The retirement of Senator Sinema in Arizona put the seat in play, and it appears to be a race between Ruben Gallegos, the current congressman, and Kerry Lake, who lost in a governor's race. It should lean slightly to the Democrat Gallegos. However, the presidential race could have a major impact on this race. Should Trump win in Arizona, he could pull Lake across the finish line. The race in Maryland is one that looked almost a lock for Democrats, but took a negative turn. Former Governor Larry Hogan, who is very popular in the Terrapin state, jumped into the Senate race, and this creates a real opportunity for Republicans to get a win in the state they didn't feel they'd be competitive. To win, Hogan will have to separate himself from Trump and attract a large share of split-ticket voters, which has become increasingly difficult in a political era where most voters seem to support the party for president and Senate. But latest polls show Hogan leading both Democrats still in the race. Congressman Trone, the leader in the Democratic primary, stumbled this week with an inopportune use of a racially charged word that has angered some black voters. New Jersey is a very blue state, and despite incumbent Democrat Bob Menendez being criminally indicted last year, he was expected to elect a Democrat to a seat this year. But Menendez, proclaiming his innocence once again, refused to resign, and has now said that if he is not found guilty at his May trial, he would run for re-election as independent. Should that happen, a strong GOP candidate could win the three-way race. But I have to admit that Congressman Andy Kim, now the likely Democratic nominee, he'll be the favorite. Moving out west, Senator John Tester of Montana has survived challenges in the past by talking conservatively in Montana while voting liberal in Washington. But the GOP has come up with an especially strong challenger, businessman Tom Sheehy. I suspect this will be the best chance Republicans have at toppling Tester. In Nevada, the incumbent Jackie Rosen is in a dogfight with Sam Brown, a decorated Army veteran who was wounded in Afghanistan. And once again, the Trump factor plays in this race where normally a Democrat would be heavily favored. This will all come down to the union vote in Vegas and Reno. In New Mexico, a well-known name has entered the race against Martin Heinrich. Nella Domenici, the daughter of longtime New Mexico Senator Pete Domenici, is contesting in a Republican primary and would be a strong candidate in the general election. The race in Pennsylvania would be an interesting one. The incumbent, Senator Casey, is being challenged by David McCormick. Now, I believe McCormick would have won in 2022 if Trump had stayed out of the race instead of endorsing Dr. Oz, who was seriously flawed. Over in Ohio, the Democrats spent a great deal of money to get Bernie Moreno across the line in defeating Matt Dolan. Moreno is more conservative than Dolan, and they may regret their actions. Sherrod Brown's in for a tough fight, and if Ohio goes strong for Trump, he could lose his Senate seat. Michigan and Wisconsin are 2 states where they're projected to lean Democrat, but both are considered races that could be in play. In general, the odds are favoring the Republicans to pick up some seats this November. This becomes important if you're a fiscal conservative. If Trump should win and Republicans keep the House and regain the majority in the Senate, then once again, for all we can see, the Republicans control spending. It's worth taking that chance because we all know the Democrats will keep right on spending. Last year, the federal government brought in more revenue than was expected and promptly spent more than it brought in once again. Deficits have become the norm in Washington, and we cannot just running up debt that will eventually topple us all into some form of national bankruptcy. The last time we had a balanced budget is when Republicans, led by Newt Gingrich and his contract with America, forced Bill Clinton to cut spending, and we actually had a small surplus. Trump didn't do it his first term. Let's see if he can do it again if he's reelected. It can be done, but it takes a Republican House and Senate to force whoever's in the White House to stop spending. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Have a very happy Easter weekend. Thanks for listening.